Salutations, my dearest friends. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to be doing the bookshelf tag. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited to be filming today's video because it is a collaboration with a bunch of other bookish babes. They came up with it and they invited me, so I'm super happy to be doing it with them. I'll leave everyone's channel down below with their videos so you can watch them. Like I said, some of my favorite people in the whole wide world are doing it. So put the questions on my notes app and we're gonna go one by one, and I'm gonna kind of show off my bookshelf really quick. Since we're doing a bookshelf tag, I feel like I have to show you my bookshelves. You guys can obviously see the two behind me. I do get a lot of questions on the shelves behind me. They are actually entertainment centers. Parents found them at Facebook Marketplace for super cheap, and since they're entertainment centers, they're very deep, so some of these shelves actually go 3 rows deep, and I can just fit as many books as possible, which is definitely a necessity. 2 rows behind me are my historical romances, and I purchased most of them from used bookstores, thrift books, or eBay. And then the very last shelf, which you don't get to see too often because it cuts off on my camera, is my cozy mystery shelf, which I love and adore. And then a shelf that you guys really don't see often because I never film in front of it is my other shelf. So anything that's not a historic romance or a cozy mystery. Those are my 3 shelves. I do have more storage like in my closet, which we're just not gonna talk about. It's a mess over here. So it's actually kind of funny that I'm filming this tag because I'm probably the least organized when it comes to my books. Much to my friends' dismay and horror, these shelves are not anchored. So we have to be a little careful around them sometimes. So I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Let's go ahead and hop in the question. So the first question is, what book is the oldest that you bought? I'm taking this as like books that I have had for a really long time. And I think I have my mother to thank for this because she kept all the books that I loved as a child like in a box, and I still have so many of them. A lot of them I donated, which I so regret. I mean, I donated them to like my old school, so it's in a good place, but I miss those books. But anyways, the one that I've had since the 2nd grade. So let me show you. And it has a cool story with it. So this is so different from when I read. It's literally a children's book. And it is Samantha Saves the Day. And it's part of the American Girls collection. This is book 5 in like the Samantha series. The story that this has for it is that when I was in the 2nd grade, I had a teacher who every time that we came back from like our second recess or our lunch, she would let us rest our heads on the desk. Because where I'm from, it's hot. Like it's very hot. Every time that we would come from recess, we would be sweating and just like stinky little kids. So she would just let us, you know, rest our head on the desk and relax, and she would read to us. And I remember it being so special because it was reading just for the enjoyment of reading. I mean, I'm sure there were some like educational purposes to it, but like we didn't have to write a book report. She didn't ask us questions. There wasn't popcorn reading. It was literally such a peaceful time. She would play music, she would read. I remember she would adopt like these different voices for different characters, and it was such like just the joy of reading and actually what made me a reader, because I can distinctly remember after that reading more and more and more. And yeah, I really do think that I have this teacher to thank for me being a reader. Remember, she was going through the American Girl series, which is a series that was really popular when I was a kid, like the American Dolls. First series that she read was Samantha, and I thought it was so special. I thought it was like about me because we share the same name. So yeah, I don't know. I just really love it. What book is the oldest published? Now, I do have a couple historical romances, so some of these books are from like the 70s and the 80s. I'm sure if I picked up a classic, it would actually be published sooner, but we're going with my historicals. And these are the 2 that I found. So the first one is The Dragon and the Rose by Rebecca Gellis, which is a medieval historical romance. And you can tell by the yellowed pages, it is old. When it was sold, right here, it has the price, $1.95. Published in 1977. So that's that one. And then of course I have The Flame and the Flower by Kathleen E. Woodiwiss. Kind of seen as like the first historical romance. Kathleen E. Woodiwiss is definitely one of those authors that kind of paved the way for the genre. One of the first authors to really write romance and sex on page. And it was published in 1972. We'll say Kathleen E. Woodiwiss isn't my favorite historical romance author because they were published so long ago. It does have some consent issues, but just for like the history alone and what she did for the genre, I'm super happy to own her books. What book is your most recently purchased? Now, if you look behind me, you're like, Sam, you have a lot of books. You buy a lot of books. Yes, I did. Like during the pandemic, I was on eBay like every day buying book lots, but I definitely have slowed down dramatically in the past year, and that's simply because I don't have the fucking space. There's no space. Like, I can't stack any more books in here. So that's why books have migrated to the closet, not including gifts. I'm talking about like books that I purchased. So I think it was the illustrated editions by Sophie Lark. This is Bloody Heart and Savage Lover. These are from her Brutal Birthright series, which I freaking love, and these are the illustrated editions, which I freaking love. There are 6 total books in this series, and it follows different mafia families in Chicago, and it kind of leads into a bunch of her other series. Sophie Lark is definitely one of my favorite authors. I actually have tattoos because of these books. So I have tattoos for the first 4 books in the series. The heart that I have on my finger is for A Bloody Heart, and then the diamond that I have right here is for Savage Lover, which is kind of a hint to something in this book. There's like a bank heist in this book and they steal a diamond, so there you go. How much I love this series. It's very, very special to me. Sophie Lark as an author is very special to me. Her writing just, I love her women empowerment in her writing. I love her sweepingly romantic stories just with a hint of steam. Like, it's perfect. What book is your favorite? So now I kind of like took this meaning a couple different ways, like what's my favorite book of all time, but also like what's my favorite cover. So we're gonna do both. My favorite book of all time is Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. This is a historical romance. This is a prequel to her Wallflower series, and it is an angsty second chance romance with a little bit of a class difference. Lady Eileen and McKenna are childhood sweethearts up together and they absolutely love each other, but the romance is kind of forbidden because Lady Eileen comes from a family of nobility and her father does not approve of the relationship because McKenna is a stable boy. Something happens in the book that kind of separates them. McKenna is left heartbroken. Years later, he is back to England as a self-made man. He got a little money on him and he's kind of back for revenge to show Lady Eileen everything that she's missed, and it follows their second chance romance. It's angsty, it's wonderful. Probably the most perfect book in my humble opinion. I recommend it to everyone. There's also like a side romance in here that I think is incredibly romantic as well. It's such a good start to the series. I can't talk about it enough. And then as far as like favorite cover and one of my favorite books, it definitely Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. If you guys know, I searched so long for this cover. It's very hard to find this cover because it's out of print and people sell this cover for hundreds of dollars on eBay, which is ridiculous. But my friend Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers gifted this to me and I think I cried when she gifted it to me. And then I found the paperback one at a used bookstore, funnily enough. But I love the hardcover because, I mean, look at that cover. Like, Beverly Jenkins clearly has the best covers in the business, okay? I wish they weren't out of print. And, like, you can't tell me this is... You can't. Like, beautiful. Perfect. It's sweepingly romantic. I've read it, like, 4 times. Maybe even more. This takes place during the Underground Railroad in America. Our heroine is like a safe house in the Underground Railroad and she meets our hero Galen under his moniker the Black Daniel, and his whole goal is to free African-American slaves. He's getting injured and that's why he goes to the safe house. She nurses him back to health and they end up working together. Follows their romance. Chef's kiss. Honestly, all the covers by Beverly Jenkins, beautiful. Let me show you. I mean, why not? I have a whole shelf dedicated to her. I do. Like, you cannot tell me the covers, they speak for themselves. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Like, don't play with it, don't play with it, don't play with it, don't play with it. They're easily the best covers and some of the best romances. Beverly Jenkins kills it with her writing, and I wish we got more historical romances like this. I'm not a fan of illustrated covers or the direction that some historical romances are heading when it comes to their covers, and I just wish we can get like the clinch covers back. I know a lot of people say that and I know it's not gonna happen, but it's pretty. What is your least favorite? Anything by Judith McAllister. Literally anything. One that I have right here is Perfect by Judith McAllister. I thought I was purchasing the mass market and then this behemoth of a book came. Like, the cover's hideous. I just don't like Judith McNaught's writing. She's a historical romance author that wrote like in the 80s and the 90s, and she's also one of those authors who's definitely seen as like a trailblazer for the genre too, but I just hate her. Like, I literally hate her book so much. I'm not a negative person and I hate being negative. Being negative gives me hives, but so do her books. So many consent issues. So many consent issues. All of her heroes are just complete jerks, every single one of them. The only one that I really did like is Kingdom of Dreams, and I don't own many of her books anymore. I've kind of cycled them out and gifted them to friends who do like her, but I picked up some of her books recently to give her another chance, because every time I mention Judith McNaught and my pure detest for her. Everyone tells me, oh, but you didn't read the good book. Oh, you read the wrong one. You should really read this one, or this one is really good by her. And I keep like picking her up and trying, and it just doesn't work. And I feel like I'm just continuously being gaslit into reading her books. And I do. I keep reading them. That's my fault, I guess. But yeah, I don't like her at all. What author or authors do you own all of their books? Beverly Jenkins and Lisa Kleypas, both of them. I'll just show you their shelves actually instead of like holding them up. I own every single one of their books. Some of them I own in paperback and hardcover. I have so many of their books that they have their own dedicated shelves. Lisa Kleypas has her own shelf. Beverly Jenkins has her own shelf. They're some of my favorite authors of all time, and I also think their covers are gorgeous, so it's kind of like a no-brainer to own all of them. Definitely made an effort to buy them on like eBay and at used bookstores. I think I also have every single Johanna Lindsey book. I was able to get a lot of them at my used bookstore and through like eBay lots. So the reason I have so many historical romances is because my favorite used bookstore used to sell them for $1, and then they went out of business, and they had like this massive sale where like any book you could fit in a bag, it was just $10, and the bag could be as big as you want. So of course I brought like trash bags and was just like dumping in as many books as possible. So that's why I have so many books. What author or authors books are you still collecting? Definitely Sophie Lark. I kind of mentioned her earlier in the video. I don't own all her books. All her books are available on Kindle Unlimited, and that's how I started reading her, because I do love reading ebooks. I just read quicker when it's an ebook, and they were all free because I have the subscription, so I kind of read them back to back and fell in love with all of them, and now I'm kind of like slowly collecting them. For fear, I will collect all of them. Most of the ones I have, I've gotten from book signings, which I can't believe I met her in person. That was beautiful and wonderful and amazing. But yeah, I'm definitely missing a lot of her books. I think I don't have any of her Kingmaker series. I'm still missing 2 of her books from the Brutal Birthright series. Camera died, and I can't remember where I left off. I know I was talking about me collecting more Sophie Lark books. So yeah, I'm just slowly collecting the physical copies. And then the next question is, do you have any auto-buy authors? And if so, who? Ellie Alexander. So I love cozy mysteries. I predominantly read like historical romances, poly romances, all that good stuff, but I love cozy mysteries. Ellie Alexander was the first cozy mystery author that I ever read from, and I love her Bake Shop mystery series, and there's like a dozen books in that series, and she's still writing in it, so every time she comes out with a new release, I purchase it because I love her. I own so many of her books, literally so many. So if you're looking for like a cozy mystery author to get started into the genre, Ellie Alexander. How do you organize your bookshelves is the next question. Chaotically. It's nonsense, truly. I do have kind of a general organization. So the shelves behind me are all historical romances, except the last one, which is cozy mysteries that I already said. Favorite authors get their own shelves. So Lisa Kleypas and Beverly Jenkins, they have their own shelves, but everything else is organized alphabetically by last name and then sorted by series. So if I have more than one book by that author, I sort them by series. And yeah, so technically this shelf behind me is organized alphabetically. That's why like the colors are kind of mismatched, because it's not color coordinated. I used to have these shelves color coordinated and it looked beautiful, but it was so chaotic, could not find anything, and then I would have to separate books that were in a series. So for me, it's easier to organize them by author's last name, because then I know like, oh, I'm looking for Johanna Lindsey, and I look for the L's. Oh, I'm looking for Kerrigan Byrne, I look for the B's. So it's just easier for me. They are double stacked, so I don't get to see everything. So yeah, it has to be alphabetical. The other shelf in front of me, that is color coordinated because it's not double stacked, so I'm able to see everything. And I do love the way a color coordinated like rainbow shelf looks. And on the top, I have like my favorite books, like my Dracula collection, my Phantom of the Opera collection. Any book box editions or special editions that come directly from the author? No, not really. I don't really get a lot of books or arcs from authors, and it's very rare that I'll request them. Last question is, if you could recommend 3 books that you own for everyone to read, what would they be and why? I'm going to recommend one from kind of like each genre that I have. So like historical romance, cozy mystery, and then like my other shelf that has like contemporary and fantasy. I recommend ones that I haven't talked about. Suddenly by Lisa Kleypas. Kleypas is just a good author to start with if you don't read historicals or haven't read many. Her writing just generally is good. A lot of people like it. The reason I recommend this one in particular though is because it's not in a series. This is one of her very few standalone romances that doesn't connect with any of her other series, and I feel like you could pick it up and just love it. and it's not a part of a series, you're not missing any integral part of the story or not knowing who a side character is. This book, our heroine is a virgin, and for her birthday, her 30th birthday, she decides she doesn't want to be one. So she goes out to hire some like male entertainment, if you will, and that's how she meets her hero. He knocks on her door and she mistakes him for the person that she's hired for this experience, and he kind of goes with it. They have a little bit of a steamy time, but really he is a publisher. He wants to publish her book because she's an author, and it follows the romance, and it's really cute, it's really sweet, I love it. Next one for cozy mysteries, I would recommend Meet Your Baker by Ellie Alexander. This is the first book in her Bake Shop mystery series. It follows our main character Jules, who is having a rough time in her marriage. They're both professional chefs on this cruise ship, and they're going through a hard time. She feels like she needs a break from the cruise ship and her husband, so she goes back to her small town to help her mother with their family bake shop. And when she gets there, bum bum bum, there's a murder, and she has to find out what happens. This one is very thematic. Is that a word? It's heavy on the theme because it's a bake shop cozy mystery, so you get to see like different recipes. Also set in this place in Oregon, Ashland, Oregon, which is known for their Shakespeare festival. So if you like classic literature or Shakespeare, there's so many references in this book that I love, and this whole series is amazing. I love it. For like my other shelf, I'm gonna recommend a fantasy, and that is Strange Grace. And I recommend this book to everyone because it's one of my favorites, but also I actually don't love fantasy books or fantasy romances. I'm not a fantasy girly, I'm not. I love historic romances and poly romances and novellas. It's hard for me to get into fantasies, which makes the fact that I love this one so much more special. It was a town that years ago a witch made a bargain with the devil and a forest. Basically, their town is very prosperous. Their crops, their health, their livestock. Because of that, they make a sacrifice during what they call the slaughter moon, where they sacrifice a boy to run in the forest with the devil that they made the sacrifice with, or the bond with. And something's going wrong with the slaughter moon. It's supposed to be spread out throughout the years, but it's coming sooner and sooner, and something is wrong with the bargain. And all three of the characters that are in this book, it is told in dual perspectives. It is told in dual point of views, and all three characters are connected intrinsically to the forest and each other in such a unique way. The writing is lyrical, the audiobook is amazing, highly recommend. That's it. I loved doing this tag. Can't wait to see everyone's videos. If you guys have any questions about any books on my shelves, let me know. I have many videos about my book collection. I have a hour-long video of all the historic romances behind me where I show each individual book. I also have a video on all of my Dracula romances and all of my Phantom of the Opera romances. I used to do these videos called Step Back Saturdays where I would just show off like pretty step backs that I bought. So I will leave that whole playlist and all those videos down below if you want to see more in depth of the books that I have on my shelf. All right, I love you. I've been talking forever. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. It means the world to me. I hope you guys are all staying happy and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!